feds in a negative light by sending out his lawyers to do multiple interviews, one that included with me. We did an interview with Drew Finland, his attorney, on Off the Record, where he explained a bunch of stuff, and also he then subsequently went on Vlad TV. So let's get into some of these motions that are given so much talking points when it comes to the Durk case. Now, let's be very clear. And by the way, I'm monitoring. I'm hearing my dogs have a little bit more motion. I don't think Rock Nation has entered the property yet. It wouldn't be wise of them, but you never know. I'm probably going to have to bring in Big Plu in a little bit before the cops call me like, yo, your neighbors say they can't. Okay. Give me about, remind me in about like 8 minutes. If in 8 minutes, I'll bring the boys in. Maybe the girls. I don't know. Maybe the girls. Okay. So in some new documents that were filed, I want to give you the latest, and I want to give you the breakdown in, short form before I get to the long form document read. So Durk is at a place where, remember that his trial was supposed to start in October. It got pushed back essentially to January. He essentially didn't agree with it, but everybody else agreed with it. Why did he want a quicker trial? He wanted a quicker trial because he is the person who they claim with the least amount of evidence, with the he said, she said, and I told you they will not lock him up permanently in a federal trial unless they have some cooperators. So the way that he could try to counteract that is, while they don't, they might have one or two cooperators that they listed as quote unquote co-conspirators and didn't reveal their name, but they don't have some of the key guys yet. So you know what Durk is doing? Durk is like, fuck that. Let's get the trial immediately, that before you could threaten these guys and flip them and give them more information that they flip on me, you guys got to come with what you got. Obviously, some of the guys who are accused of being shooters, and there might be some more evidence on them, they're like, well, we're not going to rush to trial and go sink our entire chances of getting out that quickly, especially when we could probably try to suppress some evidence. We could do this and third. So there's two diametrically opposed strategies. If you're one of the shooters that they have dead to rights, or you're, say, OTF Vonnie, who they believe bought the gloves and ski mask and bought the accessories that the shooters used, you want to delay the trial. Why do you want to delay the trial? Because you want to try to suppress some of this shit. You don't want all this stuff being admitted into evidence, because you can be like, hey, this is just a honest, listen, I know, 2022, we're out of COVID times, but it's like, hey, this was our procedure. We usually move around this for incognito. Make up whatever excuse you want. So that would be their demeanor to things, right? Like, hey, we're gonna, whatever. Okay, cool. Durk wants to get the trial immediately. Durk is like, yo, shit, I know y'all ain't got everybody flipping on me. Maybe I got one or two, but them one or two y'all got right now don't got that much of a tie to me. I got plausible deniability. Y'all got to convict me beyond a reasonable doubt. I could explain it away. Why were you in LA? Well, I went to do a podcast. I went to do a video shoot. I went to do this. Why did you go on the thing with him? Well, this is a guy I've been rolling around a lot with. Oh, well, the guy said that you told him this. Well, I didn't tell him that. There was a general sentiment that, why would I have to tell people to go kill somebody for Vaughn when everybody knew that Vaughn got killed? These guys are from some of his blocks. These guys had more reason to do it. Not saying you would point the finger, but he had some plausible deniability, right? So he wants to go to trial quick. They want to go to trial later. The judge subsequently agreed with pretty much the other dudes, and essentially they're going to be going to trial they set for January, but it might even be delayed more. Now, in that, because they're not going to go to trial now, Durk is proceeding with what's called a motion to dismiss. Durk is saying this case is bullshit. And by the way, a bunch of other inmates are saying, nah, this case is bullshit. Y'all don't got what y'all need to really prosecute us. Now, what motion to dismiss on its face value is that, listen, there isn't enough probable cause, given especially discovery or any other information that's came out, that would warrant this case to be heard by a jury. Okay, keep in mind, let me give you the levels of proof that you need to get to a place where you go to trial. So, bingo. For usually for a detainment, you need reasonable suspicion. We reasonably have a suspicion that you committed a crime. What could that mean? Yo, there's a nigga with I don't know, a scar on his left cheek. Right, I know it says right, but okay, this is right on your screen. There's a nigga with a scar on his right cheek that I saw walking away from the body. Immediately, a police is going to stop you, and they're going to have the authority to stop you and detain you because of reasonable suspicion. Usually in most states, again, this is a federal case, but I'm just giving you some legal basis. In most states, reasonable suspicion will allow the police to at least stop you, detain you, and identify you while they continue that investigation. Now, the further step up from reasonable suspicion will be probable cause. Probable cause could be on face value, especially if you're driving a car. You should know this. Probable cause is why they're going to go in your car without a warrant. Now, when you drive on, state roads or even federal roads, or even municipal roads, all roads, period, there is laws throughout the land that says that if a cop deems that there is probable cause, he could search your car. He doesn't have to call a judge, whatever. Now, it's only for cars. If there's probable cause that you got a dead body inside your house, they got to call a judge. Got to. Okay. Now, I'm giving you these situations because I'm trying to explain. I want everything to be mad simple to y'all, right? So that's probable cause. How does probable cause happen with arrests? Now, probable cause means there is more than there is evidence that suggests that a crime not only was committed, because that's reasonable suspicion, right? It suggests that there might be evidence of a crime, or you might be the culprit that committed the crime. That usually is the law for people to arrest. So, for example, if, the cop shows up, somebody's dead, you got blood all over your shirts, they could arrest you on probable cause, and you have a knife in your hand with blood on it. They could arrest. They don't have to ask the judge. They could arrest you on probable cause. Now, here's the thing about much more intricate cases and cases that also involve, like, for example, federally, because there isn't like a federal police department. Yes, I know we have the FBI, but they're not like municipal. Probable cause is usually not determined by a FBI agent, a HSI agent, or any agent of any federal bureau. They usually submit what's called a complaint, or they usually submit some type of affidavit, and the probable cause is usually enacted on by what's called a AUSA, a prosecutor. So, for example, just to be clear, in state in anything below federal, if someone's dead, you got a knife in your hand dripping of blood, your shirt's full of blood, they're gonna arrest you, and they could just charge you with murder, and then the prosecutors have to deal with that, right? The reason why the feds have such a high conviction rate is because you won't get a charge until the AUSA agrees with the investigator. They have to sign off on the complaints, or they have to present a possible bill of charges, which is called an indictment, to a grand jury that gets signed off on by majority vote, which is usually 23 people, 12 has to vote that there is a true bill. Okay, why did I explain that to you? Because in the event that you get charged, sometimes information could come out, or maybe you have a response to the charges you got to say, hey, why you charge me? Here's the explanation for this. This shouldn't have been a charge. I'm motioning to dismiss it because it's not valid, right? Durk tried that before because he had claimed that they used lyrics to present to a grand jury who came back with an indictment, right? The indictment is the bill of charges. And they said those lyrics were recorded before the death of Lil Pop. The prosecutors changed it expeditiously and came back with another indictment that didn't include lyrics, because the lyrics indeed were not referring to Lil Pop. Okay, so where are we now? Durk after realizing that this trial is going to get postponed, is now once again challenging the validity of these charges. He did it with a motion to dismiss. And there's a couple other inmates who are mimicking that with their lawyers, but they're saying that, hey, listen, y'all don't have enough evidence that suggests that I had nobody killed. How do you know that I told somebody to go kill somebody? What's the fuck y'all talking about? So the prosecutor has to respond to that. And also, because Durk is constantly going forward with asking for a bond, they keep giving additional reasons why they think Durk should not be let out on a bond. Okay, so there's two issues. Dismiss the charges fully, but even if the charges aren't dismissed, at times, if the charges look weak, the prosecutor could, not prosecutor, the judge could say, I'm going to let this person out on a bond, especially when you're offered millions of dollars, this, that, and third. By the way, this happened in the Diddy case, and I'm not going to lie, that was a huge thing where Diddy offered $50 million, and somehow the prosecutors were still able to convince the judge that Diddy was so dangerous, you shouldn't give him a $50 million bond. So let's get into some of this paperwork here, and I'm going to read through it. Again, I gave you the short, so now you're going to get the long. Pause, right? Now, this was filed in federal court on the 6th, and I have to let y'all know, if you guys are tired, if you guys want me to just skip through this, this is where we do most of our work. Relax, okay? All right. So let me go through this entire paperwork. And by the way, we have three of them to do, and afterwards we could get on to other topics, but we have to get through this expeditiously. Thank you to Drill. By the way, if you guys have any way you Drill, please don't make this 1 3-hour thing. I think people tend to not watch the whole 3-hour thing. If you just make it 1 3-hour clip, cut it up where we're talking about different pieces of this situation. Thank you. All right. So what's going to happen is that there was a new motion, and there's a motion by the government because the government, you know, they're trying to make Durk seem like the boogeyman, right? And why would they want to make him seem like the boogeyman? Because the judge is not only not going to let him out on bond, but also it could validate why these charges should not be taken lightly or even dismissed because of how scary and how just dangerous Durk is. So just check this out. It says the plaintiff, which is the United States of America, when you go against when you're in federal court, it's whatever your name is, Durk Banks, at all means there's other defendants, but it's United States of America versus you. Very scary, by the way. I've heard from people who have actually been there. It said, okay, so the Counsel of Record, which is an acting United States attorney for the Central District. So this is their attorney, U.S. attorney, which is Ian blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. They hereby file the motion to impanel an anonymous juror in the above captioned trial. The motion is based upon the attached memorandums of points and files in this record. So they want an anonymous jury. What is an anonymous jury? I want to give you guys all the information I could possibly find. I want to give you guys, anonymous jury, federal. We want to get information that people know. Okay, prosecutor. Okay. By the way, they did the same thing for R. Kelly. Let me just play a brief thing explaining why they did it for R. Kelly, then I'll speak. Okay? Okay. It's going to load eventually.
Federal prosecutors want the jury for R. Kelly's trial to be anonymous and partially sequestered. They cite significant media coverage and the singer's alleged history of interfering with legal proceedings. Kelly was indicted in March on racketeering and sex trafficking charges. He's been held in a federal prison in Chicago, where he also faces federal and state charges. His federal trial in Brooklyn is set to begin in September. Prosecutors want the jury for the trial to be separated from the public and accompanied in and out of the courthouse by U.S. Marshals.
Okay. So anonymous jury is going to be a jury that they're understanding how much media attention this is going to get. They don't want the jury to be seen or known or heard from by the media, or maybe even influenced by the media, or maybe the particular person's celebrity status. So they've filed this, and by the way, this is anticipation of this January trial date, which I believe will be pushed back somewhat. So now let's read some of this is their memorandum of points and authorities. It said this case involves a well-funded, interesting that they mentioned up front, well-funded, an organized attempt to kill one of the defendants, Durk Bank's rivals, at a busy gas station in Los Angeles. In broad daylight, 3 shooters opened fire, including with a machine gun, missing their intended target, but killing SR. The government will prove at trial that all 7 co-conspirators were affiliated with the defendant Durk Bank's organization, Only the Family, OTF. 5 were OTF members and 2 were recruited by the defendant Wilson, who they're saying is Didi. Now, we're going to get into Didi in a little bit and drill. Again, I want you to cut this up in a way that people could watch the clips and understand it, because we're going to get to the Didi portion. Didi's going to be doing an interesting move, because here's the thing. Didi is a very important person. Like, if this was, and again, please understand that when I'm talking, I'm not trying to plan a criminal conspiracy. I'm not wishing. I'm not hoping. I'm just speaking in a hyperbolic sense that if you were to understand this in a movie sense, what would be the thing? Because 2 of the killers, right? 2 of the killers were recruited by OTF Didi. If this was Batman, you got to kill OTF Didi. Honestly, you get what I'm saying? You ever watch that Batman joint where it's like, it was like, hey, I was recruited to this, and the guy kills the guy, like, well, I was recruited to kill you, because that's how you're trying to cover up the tracks. So essentially, there's a bunch of OTF people, but then there's non-OTF people, but the one link to the OTF dudes is Didi. Now, again, I am not, and I want to say this, I'm not wishing, I'm not saying that this should have happened, but I am telling you that the prosecutors have now linked OTF Didi as the integral link to what the hell was happening with this, what they call a murder conspiracy. They believe he recruited people. Now, what we're going to see later, and we're going to get into OTF Didi's part, he's also filed for a severed trial. Why? I'll give you the short now. I'll explain a little bit more later. If he gets a severed trial, they can't just use evidence against all of them, and they would have to come with evidence that directly has to do with him. I don't think that's going to be done, because the prosecutors have termed this to basically a conspiracy, and I wouldn't be surprised. Again, this is damn near a RICO trial. Why do I say damn near? Because murder for hire on face value is a conspiracy. A RICO trial is a conspiracy. The only thing about a RICO trial is that in RICO, all the crimes are done in furtherance of the gang. However, in this one, you're recruiting people that's not in the gang. They're not doing it in furtherance of the gang. They're just trying to get some money. So there's people who are getting money just to do the act. They're not doing it to make OTF look like anything. They're just like, give me some money and I'll kill whoever you want. So this is why the RICO hasn't dropped on Durk. However, when you start trying to phrase it a certain way, trust me, if they could get a RICO charge or the RICO agreed with by a panel of grand jury members, we might see that at a later time. Now, granted, we're getting close to the trial would have started already, I believe, but they moved it back. The closer we get to the new trial date, it probably is unlikely we'll see a RICO for this district. Why? Because Durk is going to be able to have whatever say in trying to push it back and whatever the case is. And if they're trying to go to trial at this time, I would imagine they probably got some ducks in order. They wouldn't want to fuck it up by giving Durk more time to send there. Okay, I hope you guys are following. All right, so let's get to it. So to ensure fair trial and prevent improper attempts to influence the jurors and otherwise protect the judicial process, the government requests that the court order the empanelment of an anonymous juror. All factors the courts must consider weigh heavily in favor of juror anonymity or anonymity in this case. First, the murder in this case was not only an isolated act of violence committed by OTF members. In recent years, OTF members and associates have committed other brazen murders. Wow. So the feds are claiming that they did other murders, assaults, and violent crimes. Second, as this course has already emphasized, defendant Banks, the leader of OTF, uses his money, influence, power to endanger individuals who he perceives as a threat. A defendant's vast resources, coupled with the expansive reach and violent nature of OTF, further justify additional safeguards to keep the jury free from intimidation and harassment. Indeed, Defendant supporters have already threatened government officials to free Durk or else face retribution. Now, we're going to get to that eventually, but basically, and this is where like sometimes fans could hurt you. They've taken fans who have looked up the judge or looked up the prosecutor and probably posted on their social medias or sent emails to their respective work emails saying, yo, if Durk don't come home, yo, it's going up for you. I'm following him grave. Like, these are fans. Like, who knows if these fans would be really executing those threats? But those things do get put into court where now Durk has to be, his freedom is going to be considered by that. So if you like an artist, I know sometimes it might be like, yo, we got to ride for them. Don't threaten government officials. That's never a good thing, right? So it says the jury must be protected for similar misconduct. Additionally, from its inception, this murder case has garnered an extreme amount of media attention that would increase as the trial approaches. This case is therefore the precise circumstance where heightened measures are needed to secure the jury's safety and safeguard its fact-finding mission from improper influence. The government's proposal narrowly seeks to anonymize certain confidential information from which jurors' identity could be ascertained without compromising the scope of information necessary for fair and fulsome voir dire. Specifically, the government requests that the names, address, and specific places of employment not be revealed to the public or parties, including counsel, to ensure all parties can be meaningfully engaged in voir dire. Now, I think you guys should know what voir dire. I'm probably saying it wrong. What this is a jury questionnaire. So essentially, they're saying that they don't want identifying things when in jury selection that maybe Durk's team or any team could identify who these jurors are. So they're saying, let's go anonymous. The government has agreed to work with the defense to propose a thorough juror questionnaire. So remember, voir dire is a juror questionnaire. Thus, both the government and the defendant will have ample information from which to make meaningful decisions and challenges during the voir dire process. All right, we're going to skip the legal background on this and we're going to go down a little bit further to some stuff you might care about. It says here, these are the reasons they're given why. It says first and second factors, the defendant's involvement with organized crime and the group's capacity to harm jurors is strongly weighed in favor of a juror protections and anonymity. As alleged in a second superseding indictment, the defendant Banks is a leader of OTF. Okay, while OTF is in part a rap group, several of his members and associates have a history of extreme violence, including murder. For example, in 2024, 6 of the O-Block street gang, including OTF associate Marcus Smart, aka Muwop, were convicted of racketeering offenses that include the murder of Chicago rapper Carlton Weekly, aka FBG Duck. Federal murder for hire charges are also currently pending against 2 defendants who were allegedly motivated to kill by OTF-linked payments. These murders and other violent crimes committed by the defendants and other prominent OTF members show the compelling need for an anonymous jury in this case due to a strong link between OTF and organized violence. Okay. Okay. It says the jury where defendants committed blah, blah. Okay. Just like the head of a typical street gang, defendants Banks exerts a considerable influence over his associates. While attempting to insulate himself, from the street-level criminality, a seized audio message between 2 OTF associates demonstrates this hierarchy. In this message, a prominent OTF associate explains that when people call Durk for money, he gives out $500,000, $600,000 to the streets, including funding his co-conspirators sliders, which is a slang for stolen cars used to commit crimes. They also attach a audio clip. I don't know if we'll have that. It says, it's on a seal. Cool. The associates describe how Banks controls and influences their operations, that Banks wants to know who's in charge of what first. That's how he wants shit done. He wants it done right. He wants people to get the sliders and stuff like that for sure. but he want people to know what's going on so it could be a real structured situation. Blood, not no more little boy shit. He further details how defendant Banks' money comes with a price. He said, this shit is going to get done right, where people go and get blamed for their own fuck-ups. Said the structure explains why defendant Banks warned an OTF associate as the associate purchased flights for the co-conspirators to travel to Southern California to commit the murder at issue in this case. Don't book no flights under no names involved with me. The allegations in this case and this evidence collected during the investigation further show that defendant Banks uses his power and influence over OTF to promote violence against his rivals and others that stand in the way. The SSI, or Superseding Indictment 1, alleges that the 6 henchmen, OTF members, and 2 individuals recruited by defendant Wilson, OTF Didi that is, flew across the country in the direction of Durk to exact revenge on his rival. After stalking the intended victim for nearly a day, the 3 hitmen opened fire at a busy gas station, and they killed SR. That's Lil Pop. But SR's death is not the only isolated example of defendant Banks directing violence. Explained the Mexican mafia structure, including gang had numerous associates who aspired to become members who were willing to commit crimes on the Mexican mafia. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Quoted associates mantra that if the mafia has enemies, they're also my enemies. He's alleged to place additional bounties on individuals that he and other OTF members wanted to kill. Wow. Mr. Banks also embraced the penchant for bounties in his music. Rapping for one time, he says, I don't want no niggas who you catch. I want the one I paid for. Oh, my bad. Fuck.
Take heat. Fuck these niggas up.
Jesus Christ. They actually pulled up the music video. Okay. Cool. So, it says, indeed, just 2 weeks following the murder of SM, the suspected leader of the faction Gangster Disciples, the alleged shooters discussed payment from OTF and Banks. Now, that's a different situation where they're talking about the alleged killer of who? The alleged killer of Durk's brother, D-Thing, right? And that's Stefan Mack. So the shooters there were saying, when are we going to get payment? And it says, yo, what's up with OTF? What do you mean they're not paying? Did Durk give you that money? It said, moreover, defendant Banks has threatened to unleash his OTF associates to stalk and hunt his rivals. For example, in a seized text message thread between Banks and other OTF members, including Didi, looked like they got Didi's phone clearly, Banks boasts about threatening a rival, telling them, I got them hunting you up. Adds better have 3 ski masks on. Now, I'm not going to lie, this might be lyrics, but clearly the feds are not looking at it like that. And in a similar thread, defendant Banks and his OTF associates discussed defendant Banks' heated exchange with another rival, with defendant Banks telling his associates, I'm finna pipe it up. A common street reference for to use a firearm. In response, the OTF associate agreed to follow Banks' lead, exclaiming, blood is green. An emoji of a car in a traffic light. Getting shit together right now, no phones, referring to a green light on defendant Banks' wishes for violence. The above described structure, criminal whatever, of OTF, and funding and considerable wealth, the power and control he exerts over associates, his desire to seek revenge on those who cross him and his associates, and willingness to do what they are told, all show the need for an anonymous jury in this case. Okay. They said there's a significant interference with witnesses in judicial process. Defendant Banks repeatedly shown his disdain for the judicial process and witnesses who may cooperate with government. It is not surprising that the witness interference has already occurred and is likely to occur in this case. Such interference weighs strongly in favor of jury anonymity. And it says, he's made clear that his contempt for cooperating witnesses on a popular podcast that has over 1 million views. Banks proclaimed, I hate rats. The fuck podcast is that? He elaborated. If you ever tell, I hate you. Like, with a passion. That made me who I am. That took away half of my life. Motherfucker telling on my pop. So I really hate rats with a real passion. Like, I really hate you. And I'm looking at the camera. I fucking hate rats.
I hate all rats. If you ever told, you ever tell, I hate you, like with a passion. That made me
This ain't the podcast they talking about though, Chad.
who I am today. That took away half of my life. Motherfucker telling on my pops. So I was raised by a woman. So I really hate rats with real passion. I hate all rats. No, I hate rats, period. I told you the reason. The reason I hate rats because my daddy did 26 years. My uncle them did 26 years. I hate all rats. If you ever told, you ever tell, I hate you, like with a passion. Cause that took away half of my. That made me who I am today. That took away half of my life. Like motherfucker telling on my pops and that's who, you know what I'm saying, I need it. So I was raised by a woman. A nigga can't tell me to rap. If anything happened in here right now and the motherfucker be like, Smirk, just put it on me. Man, I'm finna pass you my tray. We at Sally's, man. I'm not, what the fuck you mean? I'm not telling on nothing. Like, I take this shit so serious, like we would be like in jail together to the end. Like, that's just what it is. No, I hate rats, period. I told you the reason. The reason I hate rats, because
It's a real nigga right here.
I hate rats, period. I told you the reason. I'm gonna tell you this is how it happened. That's it. I'm not gonna tell you my lawyer. Nice. If you ever get jammed up, this what you do. What happened? Call my lawyer. That's it. I'm not gonna tell you this is how it happened. It was me and him in the car. It ain't mine. All that goofy shit. That's snitching. That's dry snitching. That's snitching. Like, I take this shit so serious. Like, we would be like in jail together to the end. Like, that's just what it is. Here, I told you the reason.
Everybody been saying, but Thug come on.
I hate all rats. For my, so I really hate rats with real passions. Like, I hate you bad. I'm looking to the camera. I hate fucking rat. I hate all rats. If you ever told, you ever tell, I hate you, like with a passion. Like, cause that took away half of my. That made me who I am today. That took away half of my life. Like, motherfucker telling on my pops and that's who, you know what I'm saying, I need it. So I was raised by a woman. You know what I'm saying, which is my mom.
Okay. Giving Banks vocal scorn for those who may cooperate. So clearly the feds are basically saying they got snitches, right? So giving Banks vocal scorn for those who may cooperate with the judicial process is predictable that the suspected witnesses in this case have already been subject to threats and intimidation. Wow. To start, one of Banks' trusted OTF associates have already threatened a suspected government witness. Specifically, the OTF associate told the witness family member that the suspected witness was a snitch and a snake, and it was not for the family. Undoubtedly reference to Banks only the family. Such threats to witnesses, even when committed by defendants' associates, are precisely the type of conduct to justify enhanced jury safety and blah, blah. Wow, they're coming with a bunch of shit. The witness intimidation is not limited to clandestine communications. This is defendant Banks, this is important, chat. Defendant Banks has also shown a repeated disrespect and willingness to impede the judicial process, despite admonishments from 2 courts about phone violation at the Los Angeles MDC. Defendant Banks has escalated his defiance, of BOP rules that keep witnesses on their safe. In late 2025, August 2025, BOP officials seized an Apple Watch with cellular capability from the defendant. Yo, Durk got an Apple Watch in jail? Come on, man. Of course, Big Smirk got an Apple Watch. Yo, Smirk, if you watching this, bro, hit the like button, Smirk. I love you, Smirk. Smirk, I don't think you did none of this. They trying to blame an innocent man. Smirk, hit that like button, Smirk. Hit the like button, Schmirk. I see you in there. It says, even more troubling is Banks' conduct after he was caught. Rather than accept responsibility for this violation, defendant allegedly obstructed the investigation, attempting to damage or destroy the communication device. Yeah, Durk don't got no watching there. What you talking about? They said there was explaining the defendant defense disrespect is not outright contempt, but blah blah da da da. The defendant refused to permit officials to execute a DNA warrant and engage in appropriate courtroom behavior. The defendant's interference with the judicial process, including destroy his cell phone to prevent recovery of evidence, weighed in favor of anonymous jury. They're saying Durk destroyed the shit. Durk's flouting of the rules is all the more concerning here, given the previous judicial admonishments and the nature of his latest offense. Possession and destruction of a device that could be used to have unmonitored communication with witnesses or those who may intimidate witnesses to take steps to alter their testimony. Indeed, although the government continues to investigate Banks' possession and use of communication devices, initial data associated with the serial number of the watch shows that the device was purchased May 2026, 2025, and was activated the next day. It says the potential that the defendant will suffer a length. Okay, so all defendants face a mandatory life sentence. Oh my God! If they're going to get convicted of 18 U.S.C. 1958, the potential that the defendants will suffer a lengthy incarceration if convicted clearly weighs in favor of anonymous jury. The extensive and continuous national blah blah. They're saying there's a lot of new stuff to it. Look, and here's also. Here we go. This case has attracted significant media attention since the defense have been arrested, and the coverage will unquestionably increase with the trial date approaching. National news has extensively covered each step of the case, including defendants' arrests, defendants' Banks' detention hearings, and even routine and mundane filings like the latest stipulation to continue the trial. The case has also received substantial attention on social media, including in-depth analysis on the case by legal channels. Defendant Banks has also chose to further publicize his case by having defense counsel participate in interviews and by using the defendant's Banks social media accounts with over 50 million followers, by the way, to falsely claim the government is using this murder as a case to criminalize the defendant for his creativity and art. Let's see the outlets they use. So LA Times, Chicago Tribune, Billboard, Law and Crimes, and DJ Vlad. Wow. Such extensive coverage understandably underscores by the defendant's notoriety and the premeditated murder at the issue in this case heavily weighs in favor of additional judicial safeguards to protect the jury, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The risk that the defendants and affiliates and the supporters will attempt to improper influence, blah, blah, are not speculative. To date, supporters have already attempted to intimidate individuals connected to the case. For example, a United States magistrate judge, given multiple voicemails from an individual stating, among other things, that the defendant Banks and Wilson were not innocent, and if that they give life, they're going to burn this motherfucker down. Burn it to the ground. It's not a game, bitch. Another supporter issued a similar threat to a prosecutor stating, free Durk or be shot. The extensive continuous publicity coupled with the threats and the other attempts to impact witness testimony discussed above demonstrate the need for jury anonymity. Wow. Okay. Now, this wasn't the only thing filed. There's another thing filed. There's actually two more documents. Give me one more second, Chad. We're going to get to it. Okay, here's right here. And then there's an FBI agent, right? So this is a special agent with the FBI. They made these statements that they're going to be swearing to. This is a declaration. In court, you could put a declaration in, right, which is a sworn testimony that, if called upon, you will testify to the same thing. It says, based on my review of the FBI criminal history report for DeAndre Wilson, okay, Wilson is OTF Didi, was convicted in Illinois, blah, 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 misdemeanor, da-da-da. Let's just go to a few other things. Based on my review of OTF associate, da-da-da. Okay, so these are some people. The ones redacted, I would imagine, are the people who are cooperating. What we should be, let's get to some important stuff. Attached as Exhibit B under seal is a true and correct copy of blah, blah, blah from the documented defendant's Durk possession of an Apple Watch. As noted, he attempted to destroy when he was caught with it based on the evidence, including whatever. I know the serial number, blah, blah, da, da, da. Based on my review of the FBI, da, 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 and the recording of 4 voicemail left on, da, da, da. So they're talking about the threats, right? So people were saying, I know it says, yo, if they get life, it's going to be blah, blah. Okay. Anything? So they logged some things under seal. And then the next thing that's important here, people, the next thing that's important is this, which I'm actually surprised that there's a Durk page I got. This wasn't even me, got to be honest. But this, I believe, is under seal or something of the sort because I do not see it on the docket currently. But this is document 230. No matter what, it says this is information that is filed by OTF Didi. He wants to get his case away from Durk and everybody else, which, by the way, on face value, people might think he's snitching. No, he's not. He wants to just separate his shit to say, hey, only give me evidence that got to do with me. Don't bring me evidence because in any type of conspiracy, even murder for hire, which is, again, is conspiracy, just not RICO, they could use that someone else's evidence against you because they're claiming it's a conspiracy. A conspiracy is everybody's in the know of what's going on and they're all planning to commit a crime, which means they might have a conspiracy. They might have statements or something that got to do with somebody else. But if they're claiming you're in a conspiracy and they have other proof that is the quote unquote connective tissue to the conspiracy, they could use those evidence that got nothing to do with you to convict you. So Didi wants to be taken out of the case, that he can't be used against Durk, but also Durk can't be used against him. Now, obviously, I've seen pages kind of looking at it and say, oh, this is sus. No, it's both ways. He doesn't want Durk stuff to be used against him, but he doesn't want him to be used against Durk. How does this benefit Durk? If Didi gets out of the case, remember, the connective tissue to the 2 shooters that only Didi knows that Durk doesn't know, how could Durk order 2 niggas that he don't know to kill somebody? They need Didi. So if Didi gets to sever his case, they truncate some of these allegations against Durk because you don't have the proper amount of proof that Durk actually ordered a shooting because he don't know some of these niggas who allegedly did the shooting. Hope you guys are following. My dogs are making some noise. I might have to go get them in a second. Chat, I'm still wired even though I'm still off the liquor. Hopefully you guys are keeping up. Are we good? Are we good? Is this boring? Tell me if this is boring. Tell me if this is boring. This is going to hit on YouTube because, you know, the dudes on YouTube like everything. They like it really, you know, fully, but I know you guys sometimes just want some entertainment. It's 2:30 in the morning, y'all. It's 2:30 in the morning, y'all. Let me see what y'all saying. Let me see what y'all saying. Too much? Is it too much? Boring? Y'all could keep it a bean. If it's boring, it's boring. It is what it motherfucking is. Okay? I'm trying to go through it that you guys know everything these lawyers know. By the way, also, I want to say this to you. I in no way, shape, or form consider myself a lawyer or anything of the sort, but I will tell you this. I do believe that the legal process, they make it more complicated because a lot of most legal rules and most legal terms come from Latin and a lot of traditional things. It makes it seem like you need somebody smart to put it like this. Chat, Rock Nation paid $100,000 for lawyers, and they're not smarter than me and you. I promise you. They might know more terms. They might have more knowledge of particular case law that is historic because they've read up on it, but the law isn't that, you know, complex. So, you know, my job here for you guys is to try to explain it in layman's terms and give you like realistic opinions. But people act like law is like so like, you know, the boogeyman, right? Like it's not. You know what I mean? It's like you guys are smart enough to be in here to make up your own opinion. You could do law. It's just that it requires you to know certain terminology and kind of like put some study in, which, you know, obviously we're busy, right? Okay, anyway, so let's get through this. So you kind of understand. Do you understand? I think you guys are smart, so I don't have to treat you guys like kids. So this idea that OTF Didi wants to sever his trial doesn't mean he's snitching on Durk. Is that this is a really important strategy. You're the connective tissue to some of the people. Because, again, this is a conspiracy. Remember in a conspiracy, remember when we talk about RICO, there was called overt acts and predicate acts. An overt act is an act that by itself is not criminal. I bought ski mask. Is that a criminal thing? You can't charge me for that. Now, if I bought ski mask and gloves and duct tape and then I give it to the person that eventually kidnapped somebody, and while they're wearing a ski mask, gloves, and they duct tape the person, now it's probably a conspiracy that I either knew if they could show that I was aware of the crime. Do you understand? You guys do understand. I know you guys are smart. So essentially, severing the case helps Durk. Helps Durk and helps Didi, because now you got to prove both of them guilty on their separate things. Remember, the government is claiming Didi, and clearly Didi ain't flip yet. They're claiming Didi was the key. Didi recruited the people, and Didi's claiming, say, what the fuck? Recruit? I ain't recruit nobody for nobody. Get me out of this case. I ain't got nothing to do with Durk. Now, don't be fooled to think when he say I don't got nothing to do with Durk, he's trying to snitch on Durk. He's just saying, prove your case without acting like Durk told me to do nothing, because I don't know that nigga ain't tell me nothing to do and I ain't do nothing for him. Exactly what you should claim. Trust. So let's read through it a little bit, okay? Okay, to the honorable court. So this is Didi's motion, right? So he wants to separate his case, right? It's 6 people. They're going to tie Vonnie to Durk. Vonnie and Durk is on the plane, right? Didi is the third person. There's about 6 people involved in this, right? They're a co-conspirator 4. He was a lookout. He was a local dude. Co-conspirator 2 is a shooter that supposedly Didi knew. There's another nigga who got locked up, but he's a shooter as well. So, but only Didi knew that person. So apologize. Durk is only connected to this through Vonnie. You can't erase Vonnie because he came on the same private jet as Vonnie, right? There could be some reasonable assumptions that whatever, even though that's still way beyond the pale of what's necessary to trial, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. So let's look at this again. A win for Durk is if Wilson, aka Didi, could separate his case, because they can't use Wilson against Durk. They can't use Durk against Wilson. Perfect, right? This is, like, put it like this. If I'm the boss and the wizard is my shooter, or not shooter, but like my second in command. If I tell him, yo, we need 3 niggas whacked, and he said, I bet, act, say less. I'm about to go get them. I'm about to go get the niggas to do it. I'm gonna go whatever. Yo, you got the bread? I send him some bread, or I'm talking to him. That's how the bread going, whatever. Cool. They charge all of us for murder. When we get to trial, I want my case separate from him. Why? Because I'm saying I don't know no wizard. He's an AI. He's an AI. I never told him to do nothing. If he did something, he did that. If I did something, I did that. He's going to be saying the same thing. We're both saying the same thing. Without them linking us together, they can't prove the crime. Do you get what I mean? Do you? Exactly. Okay, great. So let's read through this. To the honorable court and all parties in their counsel of record, defendant DeAndre Wilson, which is OT of Didi, by his counsel Craig A. Harbaugh. And by the way, chat, I do know we have a powerful media company and media situation here. So, like, I got to be, because I love Durk. So, chat, if this is structured in the way it's structured, all these lawyers filing for these guys should be filing under the direction of, all right, because it's over, I'll use that. All them other lawyers, Brian Steele controlled the show. Do you get what I mean? You get what I mean, right? You guys are smart. When Brian Steele say, everybody moves. If that didn't happen, Doug would have probably went down. Again, with most of these situations, the government is calling y'all a team. Now, granted, it's a conflict of interest for you to have one lawyer control everybody. But if y'all don't somehow at least acknowledge what the other quote-unquote team member, even if y'all claim you're not a team, you're not a gang, you're not a whatever, you got to understand what other people are doing. Because if you claim one thing and they claim another thing, i.e. Gunna saying, yeah, we are a gang. And you're like, whoa, nigga, we were saying we're not a gang. You get fucked. So in most of these cases, the money, man, you got to have your lawyer, wink, wink, blah, 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 blah. Y'all do what, you get what I'm saying, right? We spelling it without spelling it, There we go. You guys are smart. So I have to believe this doesn't get filed without the acknowledgement and understanding that this is a good chess play that helps not only Didi, but Durk. You guys are smart. So, defendant Wilson, Didi, through his counsel, Craig, moves his court for order severing his trial from that of co-defendant Durk Banks and any other defendant whose trial are joined with Banks. Remember, he only mentioned Durk. Why? Because that's the crux of their case. This motion is made pursuant to blah, 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 da, 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 on the ground that a joint trial would be compelling and incurable prejudice to Didi as a result of prejudicial spillover from extensive other acts, evidenced noticed by the government that overwhelming concerns that Mr. Banks and alleged actors would not be admissible against Mr. Wilson if he was tried alone. Bingo. So what they're doing is they're attacking the idea of the conspiracy. Keep in mind, murder for hire is a conspiracy. You know, if you look up, this is Department of Justice. This is Department of Justice. This is what it says. Conspires. This is in the definition. Conspiracy. What conspiracy is on its base value is two individuals who knew they were doing a crime. They agree to do the crime together, and whether one fired the gun and one bought the bullets, or one set the person up and the other one lined him up and killed him, who gives a fuck? Y'all conspired. So conspiracy is a base thing. Don't think that only RICO is conspiracy. RICO is a organizational conspiracy, right? So as organizations try to, like, RICO is a Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations Act, right? Which means it's usually that there is an enterprise and there's an organization that is being, and by the way, a RICO could have applied here because OTF, here's the thing. Two of the people got nothing to do with OTF. The killers got nothing to do with OTF. Now, I'm pretty sure maybe in grand jury, or maybe it'll come later, they're going to have this conversation. Well, it's still a RICO. It's still a RICO if the organization hired two niggas outside the organization to commit the murder. However, that's probably harder to prove because there's multiple levels here. And I think that the government didn't want to overreach, and they said, well, the applicable thing here that also carries a mandatory, and the only reason why, I'll say this, and again, I'm not a legal expert, I'm giving my opinion here, but I believe if no one died, he gets hit with a RICO. Because someone died, they just hit him with murder for hire. Who cares about the RICO? Because murder carries life, especially a murder conspiracy. So don't do a RICO. Just do murder for hire because that's more of a direct thing.
So Smirk, he's getting hit with another case, man. I know this is a short video, but man, keep your head up, Smirk. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I feel so bad for Durk, man. Like, even though, let's keep it a bean, all the stuff that he's probably charged for, he probably did it all. Like, let's just keep it a book. We hope he beats the case. It's like ASAP Rocky in the shooting, bro. We seeing in 4K him do it. But we hope he beat the case, and he beat the case. So let's just hope Smirk beats the case. It's a lot. What Axe says is 100% true. If Durk loses case, he will go broke. And he's probably spending life in prison. So yeah, if Durk doesn't beat this case, remember K Flocky's basically gonna be like, man, I feel bad for Durk, man. But pray everything goes well. It's your boy Big X News. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.